Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Welcome to the 5th International Forum of Transboundary Air Pollution in commemoration of the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. My name is Grace Wan, and it's my great honor to be here with you today. So in this forum, we will explore the important themes, including the future of carbon neutrality and prospect for air quality in Northeast Asia, and the pathway for cooperation, as well as opportunities to strengthen the joint responses to transboundary air pollution. So now we're pleased to begin the 5th International Forum on Transboundary Air Pollution in commemoration of the 2025 International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. So to begin with, we are honored to invite His Excellency Mr. Ki-yong Jung, Ambassador and Deputy Minister for Climate Change, to deliver the opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the 5th International Forum on Transboundary Air Pollution held in commemoration of the 6th International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. I recall clearly the moment in 2019 when the Republic of Korea brought this idea to the United Nations. Our aim was straightforward: to affirm that clean air is a universal right and that protecting it is a shared responsibility. The resolution's unanimous adoption showed the world's recognition that clean air is fundamental to health, climate stability, and human dignity. Progress has been made. In some cities, the skies are clearer than they were a few years ago. Yet the challenge remains serious. UNICEF reports that 500 million children in the Indo-Pacific still live in countries with unsafe air, and more than 300 million are exposed to levels 5 times higher than what the World Health Organization considers safe. These figures represent lives and futures at risk and remind us why we cannot relent. That is why today's forum matters. It gives us the opportunity to share knowledge, reflect on lessons, and identify practical steps forward. Last year, I addressed this forum as Special Representative for the Indo-Pacific. Today, I do as Climate Ambassador. My role has changed, but my conviction has not. We can only meet this challenge by working together. Looking ahead, 4 directions seem especially important. Our work must be grounded in science. Air does not stop at boundaries, and neither should the data we collect. Transparent monitoring, open information, and evidence-based policy are the basis for trust and cooperation. We must also strengthen solidarity. Clean air cannot remain the privilege of a few. Developing countries need access to technology, finance, and capacity so that every society has the chance to move toward healthier growth. At the same time, we should remember that climate action and clean air action are inseparable. Each coal plant retired, each bus electrified, each forest preserved helps lower emissions and improve the air children breathe. Pursued together, these goals reinforce one another. Finally, we should work toward a normative basis for collective action. We are not starting from zero. Europe's Convention on Long-Range Transboundary Air Pollution has shown the value of common principles, and ASEAN's agreement on transboundary haze pollution has offered a framework for cooperation in our region. The task now is to expand and deepen such efforts into a global framework. Over the past 6 years, the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies has helped raise awareness worldwide. Awareness, however, must be matched by action. I hope today's discussions will generate fresh ideas, stronger partnerships, and practical solutions to guide us forward. Let us commit ourselves to science, to solidarity, to linking climate and clean air action, and to building cooperation across the Indo-Pacific and beyond. The choices we make now will shape the skies that future generations inherit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your meaningful and insightful remarks. So next, we will hear the congratulatory remarks from Mr. Ganbord Basanjav, head of the UN ASCAP East and Northeast Asia Office. So please give him a warm round of applause.
His Excellency, Mr. Chung Gi-yeon, Deputy Minister for Climate Change, Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor to join you at the 5th International Forum on Transboundary Air Pollution, hosted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea in celebration of the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. Over the years, the forum has grown into a vital platform for fostering dialogue, promoting collaboration, and reinforcing our collective commitment to addressing transboundary air pollution. Allow me to extend my warmest congratulations and sincere appreciation to the government of the Republic of Korea for its steadfast and generous support to the Northeast Asia Clean Air Partnership, NIACAP, under the Northeast Asian Sub-Regional Program for Environmental Cooperation, NIASPEC, which has provided a vital platform for member states in addressing common environmental issues in the sub-region, including air pollution. Thanks to this invaluable support, we are proud to announce the official publication of the NIACAP Policy Analysis Report entitled Success and Challenges in Addressing Air Pollution in Northeast Asia, a call to strengthen regional cooperation, a landmark assessment that captures both success achieved and the challenges that remain in our pollution management across Northeast Asia. The report highlighted remarkable progress across the region. Over the past decade, not only the Republic of Korea, but also its neighboring countries, including China, Japan, and Mongolia, made tangible improvements in reducing air pollution. These outcomes are not accidental. They are the result of ambitious national policies, strengthened national air quality standards, and determined implementation efforts, which are steadily aligning with global best practices. Together, these advances provide compelling evidence that science-based policymaking, coupled with political will, can deliver real and measurable benefits, cleaner skies, healthier lives, and stronger resilience for future generations. The unwavering support from the Republic of Korea has enabled us to move forward in further strengthening environmental cooperation in the sub-region. Looking ahead, member states are preparing to adopt the next 5-year plans of this sub-regional environmental cooperation program's strategic plan for 2026-2030, as well as the NIACAP work plan for 2026-2030 at the upcoming 28th NIASPEC senior officials meeting scheduled to take place in September in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. The Republic of Korea's visionary leadership through both this forum and its continued support to NIASPEC and NIACAP sends a powerful message. The pursuit of clean air and sustainable development is not only a national priority, but also a shared regional responsibility. I'm confident that today's forum will generate new insights and strategies for strengthening our joint response to transboundary air pollution, which, while inspiring us all to build on the progress already achieved. Let me conclude by wishing the 5th International Forum on Transboundary Air Pollution every success. Please be assured of ESCAP's unwavering commitment to supporting cleaner air and sustainable development in Northeast Asia. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Ganbert Basanja, for your kind words. Thank you very much. Please return to your seats. Thank you. So this time, we will now have a commemorative photo session with our distinguished guests and speakers. May I kindly ask and invite Ambassador Ki Yong-jung, Mr. Ganbert Basanjev, and all moderators and speakers to come up to the stage for the taking commemorative photo. Okay, we will have our VIPs, distinguished guests, come forward for the group photo. So all distinguished guests, please follow our staff's guidance. Can we squeeze a little bit? Thank you. Looks good. Okay, 2 steps right. Okay, perfect. So please look straight at the camera and give your brightest smile. Thank you. Why don't we have another pose with our right hand, the fist, to show our commitment to the clean air for the future? Thank you. 1, 2, 3. One more time, 1, 2, 3. Great, thank you very much. Thank you for your cooperation. Please return to your seats. So we have just taken a group photo to commemorate this meaningful occasion, the 5th International Forum on Transboundary Air Pollution in celebration of the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. So today's gathering reminds us that beyond policies and discussions, it's also about people, leaders, experts, and colleagues coming together with one shared purpose. So as our stage is being prepared for the next session, let us take a moment to reflect on why we are here: to strengthen cooperation, to exchange ideas, and to create a cleaner and healthier future for us. Please stay with us as we will begin shortly once the stage is ready. Thank you very much. So from now on, we will now begin the first session on the theme Prospect for Air Quality in East Asia and Strategic Pathway for Regional Cooperation. So this session will be chaired by Dr. Jun Kim, Professor of Department of Atmospheric Sciences, Yonsei University. So please welcome him with a warm round of applause. So, Dr. Kim, the floor is yours now.
Okay, thanks. This session 1 is for prospects for air quality in East Asia and strategic pathways for regional cooperation. So we have 3 presenters on this session. First, Professor Jung-Hwan Woo from Seoul National University, and Professor Eung-Yuen T. Kim Won from AIT, and Professor Gantua Gambot from German Mongolian Institute for Resources and Technology. So it will be on a talk on the science and wildfires and policy and cooperations. Okay, so let's invite Professor Jung-Hwan Woo for his talk on future air quality in Northeast Asia under carbon neutrality AQNIA.
Thank you, Dr. Kim. Thank you very much for introducing me and giving me a chance to share my recent work on future air quality in Northeast Asia under carbon neutrality. This is a very much collaborative research work with colleagues from international organizations at EASA and Korea, China, Japan, and United States. Let me introduce some more. Okay, let me start with a concept of integrated assessment. So we, as a scientist, we need to understand the concentration field, which starts from the emissions to the concentration. However, we have to understand the law of climate and meteorology and atmospheric chemistry to understand concentration field. But however, we need to, the main hope, and we know that delta emission, if the emission is decreased, then we are going to have improved air quality in the future. But the concentration itself is not a one thing. It is the, we reclassify that to the domestic, transboundary, and natural component. And the final goal to accomplish better air quality is to reduce the risk of health impact and climate impact and vulnerability. So the things we need to do as a government or personnel is to do the emissions control by policy and technology measures, and also understand the resources and energy requirement in the future by the delta population and GDP. So that's the concept of integrated assessments to understand from the population and GDP, emissions and policy, to the concentration and impact. Let me think about Northeast Asia, which the South Korea is located in. North Korea has 6 countries: China, Korea, Japan, Mongolia, Russia, and North Korea. This is only 2.8% of world country population, I mean, by number. However, these 6 countries emit more than 40% of greenhouse gases and also 30% of air pollutants. So each country's government and the international organization or collaboration system like UNSCOP and IPCC and UNCCC is working on to improve our air quality and climate by reducing air pollutant and greenhouse gases. So I'm, as many of colleagues in here, I have been working on the CAP program under the UNSCOP with the 6 countries' friends to have some kind of collaborationship among these 6 countries for the better air quality in this region. So our initial hope and wish to have as a program is common emissions inventory, common monitoring and modeling framework, and integrated assessment for those 6 countries. However, this progress is not quite fastly implemented, but still keep working. We keep working on that. So we rather start with more scientific and more non-governmental research work using integrated asset management strategies model for the clean air future in Northeast Asia, which we named as Aquinia project. Aquinia is air quality in Northeast Asia. So 3 major objectives of this project is to establish a network of experts in Northeast Asia and develop integrated air quality management strategies and support international cooperation frameworks. So we have an expert from 3 countries, South Korea, China, and Japan, and field international expert from the EASA, which is located in Austria. So these 4 components are climate and energy IAM expert. These are the air quality IAM experts. So we then set up integrated assessment modeling framework for each countries of China, Korea, Japan, and we use international IAM of GAINS of EASA. So we use GAINS for 3 countries of Mongolia, Russia, and North Korea. We then set up the future scenarios of baseline to the net zero scenarios, and we take NDC, old NDC scenario as a middle scenario. And we link that with the air quality scenario because air quality control, air pollution control is mainly coming from the end of pipe technology, so it's a little different from the energy pathway difference. So we have 2 more scenarios of no further control versus maximum feasible reduction. And then we use social economy scenario of SSP2 linked with RCP 4.5 as our scenario set. So we link energy and energy economy scenario and air quality scenario together. Then we use the participating IAMs to understand the future air quality under carbon neutrality future. So here is the IAM-based integrated assessment. One is national IAM versus international IAM. And then we do the IAM and chemical transport modeling-based approach. But due to the time limitation, I will introduce only international IAM-based integrated assessment today. Here is the decarbonization in East Asia from Korean government and Chinese and Japan. So we can see the 3 different future scenarios for CO2 emissions, which is the energy tracer for Korea, China, and Japan up to 2050. If we link that with the air pollutant future, you can see in the y-axis is different air pollutants from CO2, SO2, NOx, VOC, ammonia, and then x-axis you can see the intensity of future scenario pathways. So if you go further from the right, you can see the more stringent scenario to the future. So you can see if you see the bluish color, then you can have the more future reduction of air pollutant emission on the carbon neutrality or more stringent scenarios for climate or energy and air quality. So for China, South Korea, and Japan, you can see the higher percentage of reductions in the future. And one interesting thing is, if you see more carbon neutrality scenario alone, it would give a much reduced air pollutant in the future. However, for the pollutant like VOC or ammonia, we need more designated air quality control, air pollution control scenarios for the reduction. Okay, if we apply the source receptor source apportionment, the module in the Grange model, we can see the ambient PM 2.5 in Seoul in year 2020, which is around 27 microgram per cubic meter. And if we go further for the year 2050, we can see the baseline is around 24 microgram. If we apply only air quality scenarios or only net zero scenario, the air pollution concentration is around 16 microgram for both cases. However, if we apply net zero and air quality scenarios together, then we can go further into like 9 microgram per cubic meter in the future. So here, the Beijing of China, you can see in the left panel, you can see the Chinese air concentration is mainly comes from Chinese emissions. You can see the domestic and local component of this graph has most of the portion for Chinese concentration with some contribution from natural source. However, if we see the 2050 net zero air quality scenario, then even China's concentration field is around 15 microgram, which is much cleaner in the future. For Japan's case, it starts from 11 microgram, and with almost 5.5 microgram in the future, which is almost close to the WHO guideline. So it's much cleaner in the future. So change in population exposure distribution in the future to PM 2.5 is much more people will living in much cleaner air for the future if we apply net zero and air quality mitigation and reduction scenarios. So even 20%, more than 20% people in Japan can live less than 5 microgram per cubic meter air quality in the future. So if we extend this kind of analysis for rest of 3 countries like North Korea, Russia, and Mongolia, you can see the much more improvement for those countries in the net zero MFR scenarios in the future. But the contribution by each component of natural, transboundary, and domestic and local is different by countries. So for the North Korea, like South Korea, the concentration field consists of natural and transboundary, almost half and half. However, Russia and Mongolia is most of the concentration field coming from their domestic contribution, and also some natural source contribution, even for today and the year 2050. So we, are working together to make that come true in the NECAP program of UNESCAP. This is the picture taken from SPC meeting of 2024 at Songdo. At that time, we adopt NECAP policy analysis report for the collaboration of 4 countries in Northeast Asia. So here you see the big smile with the participants after this SPC meeting, because as you see, this one shows the China, Korea, Japan's emission is it becomes decreasing trend for every 3 countries. So this kind of mood or atmosphere was happening was not happening in last 15 or 20 years. However, finally we became into in the same position for the air quality collaboration. We need to step further on this. We change gears to make it faster to be a more collaborative manner in this region. So we did a initial gap closure approach. Gap closure means that if 50 microgram is present status of one region, for example, region 1, then if we apply maximum feasible technological reduction, we can get into like 20 microgram or 20 microgram in the future. So the gap from today to the maximum effort is like 30 micrograms. So if we take 50% of gap closure, then it would be 35. For the region 2, have different concentration numbers, but the gap is 50%. We can still get those numbers. So if we apply that for each countries, then these 6 countries in Northeast Asia, if we apply the reductions by country, which is scenario A, then we have this amount of millions, multi-million euro per year. However, if we apply the collaborative effort by each countries as a 6th country in Northeast Asia, we can see much 7% less amount of money, we can still reach 50% gap closure. In this case, Korea and South Korea and North Korea has most benefit because it has almost 10 times less money required to get this 50%, or in this case, 75% gap closure. So if we, again, do all the Northeast Asia as a one country, then we can get 17% less money required to get 70% point of gap closure. So this is very preliminary result, but still, we think if we collaborate each other, we can save some much more money to reduce or improve air quality in this region, and in the meantime, we can save some energy to fight against more challenging issues. Here's a summary. So basically, we have start working on the collaborative work with more quantitative integrated assessment with 6 countries and international organization. And we have a much better future. We are expecting much better future for Northeast Asia. But we still need to have more designated air pollution controls for species like NMVOC or ammonia for the better air quality. And our collaboration will give not only better air quality, but also the reaching those goals with less amount of money measures. Okay, this is my talk today. Thank you for listening my talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Wu. It was about the science-based future projection of air quality, which also addressed the co-benefits between net zero and air quality improvement. Also, he addressed the issue of the transboundary issues as well. Okay, let's move on to next presentation by Professor Kim Won. It'll be about wildfire emissions in Southeast Asia. Due to the technical issues, this will be given in a pre-recorded version.
Hello, everyone. So first session, I would like to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of South Korea for the invitation to join this forum. So I am Professor Nguyễn Thị Kim Oanh. You can call me Kim or go by Kim. And my topic today is the Wi-Fi emission in Southeast Asia, multiple effects on regional air quality, ecosystem, and health. So the first as on, I would like to put some highlight on Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi causes multiple effects on air quality, ecosystem, and climate. And the second point here, I would like to highlight on Wi-Fi situation in Southeast Asia, emission and effect on ambient air quality. And the third point here I would like to highlight is regional collaboration and joint responses to solve the problem. So Wi-Fi, so first, it is a kind of fire, the forest fire, pit or bushfire, so unplanned and uncontrolled fires in open area of combustible vegetation. So this is very important part of landscape fire because landscape fire also includes agricultural burning, for example. So name is Wi-Fi, but actually only about 10% of the global Wi-Fi is caused by natural causes like dry lightning, earthquake, spontaneous combustion. 90% of that's actually man-made. So we can see here in Southeast Asia, shifting cultivation or with slash and burn activity cause a lot of forest fire. And also spreading from other burnings like solid waste, crop residue near the forest, also caught fire in the forest. The favorable condition of Wi-Fi, so actually Wi-Fi, we can have weather, fire weather. So hot and dry weather, so low soil and vegetation moisture content, strong winds, actually the condition favorable for Wi-Fi and spreading. And that's why the Wi-Fi intensify under climate change scenarios. So effects of Wi-Fi, so we have the direct effects, of course, it destroys forests, it destroys ecosystem, it affects on biodiversity, and also it destroys properties. In terms of air quality, it have large emission, cause local air pollution problem, and transboundary and regional haze episodes. So that give us a very high serious exposure and associated health effects. For atmosphere, the Wi-Fi causes the reduction in visibilities, and for climate, the Wi-Fi destroys the plants and forests. It means destroy the sinks of carbon dioxide, and at the same time, it releases greenhouse gases, short-lived climate forces like black carbon, organic carbons, etc. And finally, it causes economical loss, like associated with health, property, tourism. So in terms of Wi-Fi emission, transport, and health impact, I borrow a figure made by in a publication here. So first, we talk about emission. The emission of toxic air pollutants like gases, particulate matters, including fine particles, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon, dioxin, these are carcinogenic compounds. Emission also includes that short-lived climate forces like black carbon, organic carbon, VOC, etc. And some of those serve as precursors to form ozone, that is VOC, NOx, and carbon monoxide. In terms of greenhouse gases, the CO2 emission from burning of long-lived forests is of concern. So exposure and health impact here, so we'll talk about the Wi-Fi, then we talk about emission, we talk about transboundary, we talk about the health effect exposure here. So this is, and it had climate feedback. The Wi-Fi effect on climate and dry and hot climate give feedback to Wi-Fi, intensify Wi-Fi. So in terms of health effects, so here we talk about landscape fires. It means that both Wi-Fi and agricultural burning, those also included here. So this is a study by Su et al. And it shows that here the three different figures here, the global own causes of attribution deaths to landscape fires. And here I put here Southeast Asian, East Asian, and Oceania. And totally, globally, about 9 million people die each year due to evolution. And out of that, 1.53 million actually attributed to landscape fires. In Southeast Asian country, and here I call ASEAN country, around 650,000 people died due to evolution, and out of that, more than 200,000 actually attributed to Wi-Fi. This is more than actually in South Asia with 170,000, and in East Asia with 150,000 people died due to the landscape fires. So in situation in Southeast Asia, we can see here a brief that we have forest fire in Laos, in Cambodia, in Chiang Mai of Thailand, and forest fire in Myanmar, forest fire in Indonesia, and the pit fire in Indonesia. So urban burning in Southeast Asia, we have mainland Southeast Asia located in the northern hemisphere, and also maritime Southeast Asia have a part of that located in southern hemisphere. So the burning season actually dry season. So in the mainland Southeast Asia, we have the Thailand, Laos, and Myanmar here. So we can see here the circle that the maximum hotspot normally seen in March each year. While in the maritime Southeast Asia, we have that in August or so. So in terms of emissions, so we estimated here, my colleagues, Dr. Hui, actually prepared the emission from each country in Southeast Asia and sum up to have the ASEAN emission. And we have it for every year from 2010 to 2018, and emission by sector, and this is average contribution. We can see that green color here, crop residue in burning activity, and gray color is forest fire emission. So we can see emission of the Wi-Fi is forest fire here, and other landscape fire, crop residue contribute substantially to black carbon emission, fine particulate matter, VOC, carbon monoxide emission, and also forest fire contribute a lot of methane here, and also a lot of CO2 emission here in teragram per year. So air pollution episode in Southeast Asia normally observed during dry season when the wildfires and other urban burning activity intensive. Here we can see a picture of Vientiane of Laos with grays and hazy condition, and in Chiang Mai during 2024, and another snapshot showing the air quality in northern part of Thailand from Air for Thai. And the darker color here is just high particulate matters and very dangerous pollution. For the monitoring of ground level monitoring, I plotted here the one station in Chiang Mai and 3 stations in Bangkok. In other period of the year, Chiang Mai air quality is better than in Bangkok in terms of PM2.5. But then in March period, normally, so PM2.5 in Chiang Mai is very high because of forest fire. So to deal with those transboundary haze problem, so first we talk about is ASEAN Agreement on Transboundary Haze Pollution. This is a legally binding environmental agreement signed by all members of states of ASEAN, and aim is to reduce haze pollution in Southeast Asia. It was adopted on June 10, 2002, and has been ratified by all member states since 20 January 2015. So the aim is to prevent and monitor transboundary haze pollution, and it is managed by Ministry of Environment and other representatives from respective ASEAN countries And it includes roadmap on ASEAN cooperation toward transboundary haze pollution with the means of control of implementation. The second haze-free roadmap of the ASEAN agreement is for 2023 to 2030. It released last year. It has 9 mutually reinforcing strategies. So first, talk about effective implementation of that agreement, and also focus on peat land, peat soil burning, that is different from the agricultural lands, and addressing sub-region needs and along with others, the legal resources, etc. So these 9 strategies actually with the own ASEAN members, state already signed, that hopefully could help to get haze-free ASEAN in near future. So in terms of research and cooperation, so this is I highlight 2 projects that we help AIT, my center also get involved. The first project is Conhin Haze. It's sponsored by eAsia. And the second project is sponsored by Wellcome Trust of UK. The both projects would aim to enhance knowledge on impact of wildfires under climate scenarios. And we conduct monitoring, emission inventory, modeling activity to get for this purpose. For adaptation, we aim at producing early warning signal. So employing like the fine weather forecast, and also at the same time provide clean room shelters for schools and communities in Australia, in Thailand, Laos, India, and a lot of that aim to capacity building. So the project actually coordinated, both of them coordinated by University of Canberra, and it helped AIT, Chiang Mai University, Mahidol University in Thailand. We have ITC in Cambodia and Laos National University, and many universities in Australia actually joined this network. The key message of my presentation is, first, we have very frequent wildfires events during dry season that cause multiple effects. The wildfire air pollution is cause recurring transboundary haze episode in Southeast Asia, and they're called for the needs of airshed management approach, and that should involve multi-country cooperation in order to solve the problem. So the ASEAN Agreement on Transboundary Haze Pollution and other regional cooperation research projects currently is ongoing and aim at building capacity toward a haze-free ASEAN. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Kim Won. It was a talk on the wildfires and the lessons that we learned. And also wildfire has a strong relationship with the climate changes as well, also transboundary features. We have seen these airborne measurements from Thailand to Chiang Mai and saw a strong PM contrast between south and north. So it was very interesting talk. Okay, let's move on to last presentation by Professor Gambat about the prospects for air quality in East Asia and strategic pathways for regional cooperation, Mongolia's perspective.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to present some Mongolian perspective for air quality in East Asia. Our focus is Mongolia, and some examples, some cases on regional cooperation. And in the beginning, I would like to mention or highlight the importance of Mongolian role as shown in Professor Wu's presentation, that by 2050, based on the integrated assessment model, there would be a great importance of transboundary pollution, especially in Northeast Asian countries like Korea, Japan, and the China, even though the local or domestic emissions can be reduced in the future. So here I would like to give a brief introduction about the geography and climate of Mongolia, over Mongolia. Mongolia is a landlocked country neighbored with Russia and China. The population is quite low, with only 3.5 million people, and half of them reside in the capital city of Ulaanbaatar. And the climate is extreme continental, so the variation, temperature variation is quite large. It can be over 60 degrees between winter and summer, and over 30 degrees between day and night. And precipitation is low compared to, for example, here in Korea, with the amount of around 100 to 400 millimeters per year. Mostly the precipitation rainfalls in summer. And Mongolia is called as a land of eternal blue sky. There are over 250 sunny days per year, and the wind is strong in spring and comparatively low or calm in winter time due to Siberian high pressure system. And here are some figures taken from the policy analysis report, NIACAP, and we see some pollutants are quite high. Concentrations are quite high compared to other Northeast Asian countries. The PM10, PM2.5, even they show decreasing trend over the past few years. However, the levels still exceed the national standard levels and the WHO guideline. The major source is combustion of fossil fuel. The coal or the coal-based the briquette fuel is the main source for heating and cooking. And households and traditional Mongolian gear areas, and still some other households or houses use inefficient coal-based or coal-fired heat-only boilers. And this kind of situation we may see frequently in winter time under condition of a temperature inversion governed by high pressure systems of the pollutants, basically from coal combustion and power plant and the vehicle are trapped within a very stable layer. And the reasons could be driven by multiple factors. The rapid urbanization and the migration from rural areas to cities, especially to Ulaanbaatar, is the main reason, and that urbanization or the migration demand increased energy for heating and cooking, and households still rely on the coal-based energy, and in the winter is harsh due to extreme continental climate, and there is also limited the monitoring and emission inventory. Also, there is a gap in enforcement and emission-related regulations, especially for area source. And in addition, actually, the dust storms that led by or driven by land degradation, overgrazing, desertification play important role in regional air quality degradation. Mongolia plays a significant role, crucial role or central role in air quality challenge due to frequent dust storms. And many studies show that there is increasing trend over the past few years. The impacts can be far-reaching, reducing air quality, and also creating public health-related issues. And actually, there are several mechanisms or cooperation or the projects still operating. So the WMO sandstorm early warnings, we are part of this system. And as already presented, the NIACAP under NIASPEC platform, we are part of these activities, and also ENET, AC deposition monitoring network supports us in monitoring data and also some activities. LTP and RAPAP and some other cooperation, bilateral, trilateral levels also present. Here, I would like to give very similar information that was already shown previously. That is the NIACAP's importance, which was the NIACAP was launched in 2018 to strengthen the science to policy linkage and to take a holistic approach to address the challenges faced by national and air pollutant management. So within this NIACAP, the framework, in 2023, the best available technique report was released, and this year, policy report called the Success and Challenges in Addressing Air Pollution in Northeast Asia was released. So here is a very important, interesting information or comparison of air pollution, air quality situations in Northeast Asia are given. And also still some achievement we could see in overall Northeast Asia, including China, Mongolia, and other countries, but there are still existing the challenges on rising ozone level and persistent urban air quality degradation and ammonia or climate-related, also the climate-related risks can, or events can impact air quality. Yeah, and efforts by certain specific countries can benefit their local impact. However, I would like to highlight the importance of the regional collaboration in this region. For example, Mongolia is organizing in coming in 2 weeks the NIACAP, the NIASPEC senior official meeting 28 in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, and also their associated events on policy, the dialogue and the national workshop will be held in Ulaanbaatar. So maybe some of you can attend and learn more. And another case I would like to show is ENET. So during the last 2 decades, over 20 years, the network, AC deposition, the initial name is East Asian Network on AC deposition. The network gained a lot of efforts and promoted cooperation among 13 countries in East Asia. So this is a very good platform on monitoring and also the data and research activity related initiative or cooperation. And as example, this is one of the currently running project supported by ENET. So, for example, here within this project, Mongolia is measuring or conducting the campaign for the very first time on VOC, volatile organic compound measurement, and at the moment we have found quite high levels of the BTEX in summertime. So there would be more detailed investigation in the coming the future. And not only this VOC measurement, the campaign, but other important research had been already conducted during the last 20 years, 2 decades. And here I would like to highlight say that Mongolia's regional cooperation in this regard is crucial by harmonizing emission inventory and monitoring with the neighboring countries, and also establishing, building early warning system for dust and pollution events, and also participate in joint research and strengthening capacity building would be essential. And in conclusion, I would like to shortly summarize that air pollution is the shared regional challenge requiring shared responsibility. And the role of Mongolia would be important, as previously shown by Professor Wu. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ganban. It was about the air quality in Mongolia and the region for pathways for regional cooperation. Okay. Now we have done with the 3 presentations based on future projections, based on science and wildfire issues and Mongolia's perspectives. So we'd like to start discussions for this session. While we can take questions from the floor, I would like to ask the speakers briefly on the topics that maybe the first to Professor Wu about the future projections of air quality, and especially with the ozone. We saw PM 2.5, the decrease in most of the regions, while ozone has not. What is your perspective for the future ozone on the net zero scenario?
Yeah, thank you very much for the insightful question. Yes, that's the question we are trying to ask ourselves. Since we've been successfully reducing air pollutant from our national policy, especially for the combustion-related pollutants like SO2 and NOx, that's well controlled, and also our effort on net zero policy and NDC, we are expecting to have much less carbon-related fuel in the future. So this kind of oxidized pollutants getting decreased more. However, the non-energy and non-combustion related pollutants like NMVOCs and ammonia is not decreasing very much with the conventional air pollution control scenarios and air pollution control policies. And also, it will not be very much decreased by the co-control effect of future climate policy or carbon neutrality scenarios. So we need some kind of more focused policy on this kind of two air pollutants to control ozone. For example, we have been seeing reducing trend or improving trend of PM 2.5 for last 8 decades and more. However, we are seeing increasing trend of ozone in our ambient air quality monitoring stations. So the reason, one of the reasons maybe is because we are reducing NOx, but not as much for the NMVOC, which has more favorable condition to produce secondary ozone. So we need to focus on understanding this kind of phenomena first, and then try to reduce NMVOC species to get a better air quality in terms of ozone pollution. That's what I think.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a non-trivial issue, and even science itself is very complicated to understand the ozone pollution. Okay, thank you. Next, I'd like to ask Professor Gyanbat about, you suggested Mongolia's perspective and suggested practical mechanisms like joint monitoring and early warning systems and technology sharing and so on. If you can prioritize, which would be the highest priority for Mongolia for these air quality and net zero projections?
Well, we have several challenges, I would say a lot of challenges. So taking the several challenges, but I would like to say some kind of a systematic the approach of focusing on not only the levelized the actions, but the actions including the science related, and also the policy, the environment regulated, and at the same time the capacity developing related actions should be taken at the same time. So I'd say not only one or two prioritized actions, but at the same time we should need parallel actions.
Yes, I guess it was a tough question, but we need a simultaneous approach for these activities to make these happen. All right, we'd like to move on to floors to take questions to these invited speakers. I'm sorry that we cannot take questions to wildfire cases, but if you can leave your questions, we can email and get back to you. Any comments or questions? Okay.
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much for the three presentations. Just a quick question to Professor Jung-hoon. Great work, looks very interesting, very comprehensive. How are you sort of planning to take it from having done the science to the policy side? You know, is there a platform? Is there a way to sort of take this to the policymakers? And this kind of course, links to the topic of or the subject of this this particular event. That's one. And the second is that I noticed that for Korea, even in your MFR, in your different scenarios, the transboundary component remains big. You know, and almost, if I'm not mistaken, a fourth of PM still comes from transboundary. So, any reflections on how that, or what is your policy recommendation going on in your report on how that will be addressed? Thanks.
Thank you so much for the insightful question. Actually, we've been working for the 3-country collaboration for China, Korea, Japan, and 6-country collaboration for Northeast Asia for more than 10 years for the 3 countries and 5 years for the 6 countries. So yes, that's very important question to make this scientific background and also the common understanding toward policy solutions. So one of the things we've been working is to make some common sense among scientists from the member countries first, and make some consensus among scientists, and then try to persuade the policymakers for each countries from their own scientists, because they are not really, in fact, we are not very much listening to the tendencies to not listening to the scientists from the other countries for these kind of very sensitive issues. So I think is the first step is to make a common language, which is the science, and then make consensus, and then try to persuade the policymakers for each country to try to at least give a one step to step forward to the common atmosphere, improving common atmosphere, and after for a while of our common effort, we are now getting into more reduced, more less amount of emissions for the main countries, like main emitters for China, Korea, Japan, and we are now in a mood to moving toward the better air quality and better air quality movement toward better air quality policy with the help of the climate carbon neutrality policy together. Second question is transboundary. In general case, in our PM2.5, we have affected by transboundary component by half and half, almost 50% coming from China or North Korea or rest of the world. So mainly these 2 countries are main focus that we need to contribute and collaborate to getting more improved air quality in my home country. So even though our effort will be reduce our domestic component of contribution, then we still have influence from the other neighboring countries. So maybe thanks to COVID, and thanks to the climate change, and thanks to their big effort to reduce their own air pollutants, we have much less contribution from the transboundary component, at least, even for now. So we are expecting to have much less in the future. So if our domestic component is less, and then our transboundary component is also getting decreased, then we have similar component of contribution, but the level of concentration or level of pollution should be much lower than today. That's what I hope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions to these issues? Yes, Professor Sanu.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Young Sunwoo from Konkuk University. I have a couple questions for Professor Ganbat. Sometimes when a developed country tries to help a developing country, they make mistakes. What I'm saying is that sometimes when we're trying to prevent air pollution and try to help with your air pollution problem, we don't understand the problem properly because sometimes you're not ready to receive certain types of help because of the fact that your infrastructure might not be ready to receive that certain types of help. So my first question is, what parts of your infrastructure do you think is the most important thing that we have to worry about to try to upgrade to try to help you with air pollution? For example, your power structure or the number of air pollution measurement sites or those kind of things where the structure has to be there before we can actually help with the analysis and so forth. The second question is having to deal with the event today, the International Clean Air Day for International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies, right? Is it recognized in Mongolia? Do you have any national events, or is the public aware of this UN Day and that was sponsored by Korea, and then it's now a full-fledged UN Day on air pollution? I just wanted to know what the recognition factor was in Mongolia. Thank you.
Yeah, regarding the first question, within the several networks and bilateral level cooperation, the countries, for example, countries like Korea, Japan, and China support us in certain activities. For example, Korea is supporting on the establishment of air quality automatic weather stations across Mongolia, and that work is ongoing work. And another example would be emission inventory instruction manual for air pollutants developed by support from Japan government. And such kind of activities I can name, I can count. But the important thing is one of the important things we need to focus on, the partners need to focus is capacity building, because our population is not so much, not so high, and there is not insufficient staff working, especially in this area. And also regarding the infrastructure, also information, quality information collection, and also information sharing would be important. And about the second question, the Clean Air Day, public awareness. As far as I know, there is no regular or no traditional events on the occasion of the Day for Clean Air and Blue Skies in Mongolia, but there are information sharing basically shared by the governmental agencies, ministry for the public information are available.
Thank you. Yes. Raising public awareness is a very important step to have clean airs and let policymakers get interested in and to have an action. All right. Any further comments or questions from the floor? Also, I'd like to briefly comment on as I'm a satellite person, the role of satellite remote sensing in monitoring air quality in regions. And also, it's very effective in understanding the transboundary pollutions that we can have. And we have had a very nice experience with the GEMS instrument together with the UN ESCAP and COICA program called PEPCAPI that led the member countries to use the data set and through the capacity building programs. And many people were very happy to be a part of that program as UN ESCAP has greatest support. And share the data set and share the technology to measure air quality in the region. That also has a mutual feedback to satellite component as well to have the valuable validation data set as well. So, considering those satellite remote sensing in near Mongolia and Northeast Asia region would be desirable, and I'm willing to support. Thank you. Okay. Any further comments or questions on these issues on the session 1? If not, we may go out for coffee break and have more free discussions. Thank you very much for the speakers in this session and all the participants.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Kim, and all presenters for your insightful contributions. So we will now take a 15-minute break, as Professor mentioned, and resume at 3:45 p.m. So we will begin the session 2, Strengthening Cooperation for Joint Responses to Transboundary Air Pollution Insights for Case Studies at 3:45. Thank you very much. So I hope you had a pleasant break. So you will now begin session 2 on the theme Strengthening Cooperation for Joint Responses to Transboundary Air Pollution. So in this session, insights from case studies will be discussed. So this session will be chaired by Dr. Suntaek Kim, Professor of Department of Environmental and Safety Engineering at Jeju University. So please welcome him with a warm round of applause.
Thank you for a nice introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. Welcome to the second session of today's forum. During this second session, we'll focus on the strengthening cooperation for joint responses to transboundary air pollution. Today, we are honored to have 3 distinguished speakers. They will share their insights and experience on regional and global the efforts to improve air quality. Each of them will bring their unique perspectives and their experiences. And after their presentation, we will have time for discussion and Q&As. During the discussions, maybe if you feel comfortable, maybe you can ask questions in Korean. Okay, let's move on to the first presentation. Our first speaker of this session is Professor Young Sun-woo. Dr. Sun-woo is the professor of Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at Konkuk University, and he is also the General Director of AOIAPA currently, and he will present enhancing international cooperation on transboundary transport of air pollution. Please welcome Professor Sonu.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction, Professor Kim. As Professor Kim mentioned, my name is Young Sunwoo. It's not a very common Korean name because Sunwoo, the last name, is 2 syllables. Most of you know Korean last names to be 1 syllable, Kim, Lee, Park. Sunwoo is a very unusual last name. So a lot of people refer to me as Professor Young because it's just the habit that way. And you can call me whatever you want. It's no problem. So again, I'm very honored to be presenting here at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs event here. And this International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies is a very special week, actually. As you know, the actual day is September 7th. That's yesterday. It landed on a Sunday. So a lot of the events were spread out throughout last week and this week. So we have a full week of celebrating clean air, which is also quite interesting. And the thing I'd like to talk to you about today is the international cooperation, which from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs standpoint is a very important topic. Okay, so call for more international cooperation. Everybody knows this, that air pollution has no national boundaries, but air pollution also has no natural boundaries either. Air pollution goes around mountains, over mountains, it goes across seas and even some oceans to cause problems at a point where it hasn't been emitted. So from an air pollution problem having been admitted at a certain location, causing problems at another location inherently calls for cooperation. Okay, so air pollution in itself needs cooperation in all aspects. And international cooperation, because air pollution flows from A to B, from a country to another country, it's a very sensitive issue, and I'll get into a little bit of how sensitive it can be. We have this sample case in Korea. The animation is not working for some reason, but you get the idea. You have this tsunami-like air pollution concentration, high concentration of that belt of red is basically high concentration of PM 2.5 or PM 10. And the air pollution is flowing from the mainland to Korea. This is a very common aspect of air pollution in East Asia because we are living in the easterly flow, I guess the westerly flow, going from west to east. And it's a constant moving dynamic meteorological system that we are in. So we receive a lot of air, including the air pollution from the west, the continent, which would be China, Mongolia, and elsewhere. And Korea and Japan and other countries are receptors of this. This can cause a lot of sensitive issues because, again, like I said, the cause of the problem comes from one point and the receptor is at another point, okay? So we had a lot of problems in the late 2010s. 2015 to about 2019, we had a media, I don't know, it was an outbreak. Chinese media was talking about how Seoul and Korea was responsible for their own air pollution. Korea was talking about how a lot of it was coming from China and they should do a better job of cleaning up. If you look at it's too far probably to see the direct, the Korean quotes, but the newscast, we're talking about 1/3 coming from, from China. Professor Wu mentioned in the previous session that about half usually comes from China. When we're talking about events, though, when we're talking about high concentration events, sometimes 80% would come from the mainland. Okay, so obviously these are very sensitive issues, and we had a big problem with trying to communicate between China or the mainland and Korea at this time. So this was a time when we needed significant international cooperation. And I'm showing you this slide because this was the SIG is like the Seoul metropolitan area. It's another name for the Seoul metropolitan area, Seoul, Incheon, and Gyeonggi province, which is the metropolitan area here. They outsourced this research project to the SCI, Stockholm Environmental Institute, based in Sweden and the UK. Now, I know these people, Chris and Eleni, very well. They're very reputable scientists and very good at their work. But it's not as if we in Korea could not do this project, Okay, Professor Kim, for example, and some other people could do this project just as well, I'm sure, as the Stockholm Environmental Institute. The reason they had to outsource it is because of the sensitivity of the problem. Okay, we can talk about how a lot of it is coming from China and all that kind of thing. China can talk about how Korea's problem is Korea's own, but we needed an independent third party, basically, to try to talk about our point of view. Now, that's a sort of a side-around way of getting to international cooperation, but sometimes a third party or a group of nations working together is necessary to try to get your point across to the conflicting parties. Now, another problem that this air pollution problem is a big issue is because it is very complex. Okay. We are talking about some, the first session talked about some issues that make the air pollution very complex. When I first came to the Konkuk University, where I'm a professor, when I met with people from the Ministry of Environment, they would say that, Professor, I worked in the water pollution department, the solid waste department, but the air pollution department is most complex. And, you know, try to help me a little bit. It is complex. And for the next couple of slides, I'm going to use this A versus B kind of a theme, wind versus no wind, A versus B. So you have to look at both points of view. It's always not just the easy, simple discussion of very self-explanatory. It can be A or B. So you have to look at it that way. Now, this is a slide where you have what you call a double Y plot. Okay. On the left-hand side is where the empty circles go to, is the high wind. Okay. Left-hand side, if you have high wind, you have the empty circles are high. On the right-hand side, you have the dark triangles, which is when the air pollution or the PM 2.5 concentration is high. Basically, what that is showing you is when there is low wind speed, which means about less than 1.5 meters per second, you're going to have high concentrations. We call that stagnation. The air is stagnant. And like I just said, we live in a system of traveling pressure systems. You know, in Korean you call 이동성 고기압, 이동성 저기압. Traveling high pressure system, traveling low pressure system. Okay. There's something to be said about that with interaction with climate change also. If climate change was to change our meteorological or climate system where we would have more stagnant times and less movement of the pressure systems, we're going to have cases of much more higher air pollution. But again, these kind of problems are not simple to explain. Okay, so when you're talking to the public, how much is coming from China? We say approximately 50%, but we have to take into consideration so many factors. I guess Dr. Ambassador Chung, when he gave his opening address, he says one of the first things that we have to do is we have to base our findings on science. Okay, science is very complex. That's a very key issue. A versus B again, meteorology versus chemistry. Okay, movement of air is mostly meteorology. And then, of course, you know that if the rain comes, it cleans out the air. Okay, so those are meteorological aspects. People usually know about that. Some people pray for rain because, you know, it'll clean up our air. What a lot of people don't realize is the chemistry aspect. How many of you in the audience know that gases in the atmosphere react chemically to form particles? I'll repeat that. Gases in the atmosphere react chemically to form particles. Over half of our PM 2.5 concentrations in Korea is made in the atmosphere, not emitted. It is made in the atmosphere. That again makes the problem very complex. So it's not enough to just reduce emissions of particles. You have to reduce emissions of gases that make the particles in the atmosphere, making the problem much more complex. Then you have to talk about priorities, which is cheaper, which is more efficient, and it differs by region. The Seoul area, the Gyeonggi area, and other areas, it differs by region which is more effective, which policy will be more effective in reducing the particulate pollution concentrations. So A versus B, meteorology versus chemistry. And when you talk about chemistry, we talk about primary versus secondary. Okay, primary meaning emitted straight from the source. Okay, secondary means made in the atmosphere, like I was talking about PM 2.5, made in the atmosphere. Okay, so over half being made is a serious consideration. Of course, you know that the precursors, the reactants that cause this are nitrogen oxides, volatile organic carbons, and then sulfur oxides, and ammonia. So it's basically the entire realm of air pollution gases that contribute to the making of PM 2.5 and other secondary products. Okay, so this shows, the first session also elaborated this a little bit, but in Korea, concentrations are going down for most pollutants. But even in the lower right-hand corner, PM 2.5, it's going down a little bit. You can see that we don't have as many measurements of PM 2.5 because it was only started in a national level in 2015. Okay, but look at the upper right-hand plot. We saw some in the first session about Korea's situation from Dr. Wu, and then Dr. Gamba talked about the Mongolian situation. It's similar. Ozone is increasing everywhere, even in Europe. Okay. Background ozone is increasing. The urban ozone is increasing. Ozone is increasing all over the world right now. It's a significant problem. Ozone can harm your health significantly. It can attack your respiratory system and your heart system also. So it is a significant problem, and it is going up. Not many people are paying attention to it. In the Seoul metropolitan area, it is going up very fast. Okay, and if you look in the right-hand side, you can see that it's steadily increasing. Okay, but it's also exceeded the standard, the health standard, every year. We're talking about how PM 2.5 is coming down, and the standard is almost approaching the 24-hour standard, the yearly standard. But now you're looking at the WHO standard and saying it's still too high. The ozone standard, we've never met the national standard. We should be alarmed, okay? And it's just, people are not really as much into this problem as they should be. The Clean Air Fund, which is an international organization that is looking into air pollution and clean air, came up with this report recently, The Case for Action on Tropospheric Ozone. The reason we say tropospheric ozone is because we want to differentiate between stratospheric ozone and tropospheric ozone. Tropospheric ozone is the ozone that you breathe. Stratospheric ozone is the good ozone. It's still the same ozone, but it resides in the stratosphere where it blocks the UV radiation, right? So the ozone hole and everything, but that's completely another topic. So it's very important, and people in international organizations are recognizing the fact that we need to do something about tropospheric ozone. Ozone is also a significant climate pollutant. It's part of what we call the SLCFs. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, but they're short-lived climate forcers or short-lived climate pollutants. That means they reside in the atmosphere for a relatively shorter time compared to CO2. CO2 lasts in the atmosphere for hundreds of years. So if you take away CO2 emissions to zero right now, there'll still be a whole bunch of CO2 in the atmosphere, as you well know. But for ozone, if we started reducing the production now, we can see the benefits immediately because it only resides in the atmosphere a few weeks. Okay, so there's multiple benefits that you can get from reducing ozone. And again, this is an international problem where we need international cooperation. The situation for making tropospheric ozone may differ at every region, but still it is an international problem that we should concentrate a lot more on. Okay, my last slide for A versus B, sacrifice versus blame. I'm obviously a Korean, and sometimes I spit in my own face by saying things that we need to do in Korea, but I have a feeling that we are not as good as a lot of the advanced countries in doing the sacrifice bit. We love to blame. We blame China and other countries. We love to blame the government, big corporations, and the car makers and all that. I think we need to do blaming is fine. If you have reason to blame, go ahead. But you also need to do a lot of sacrifice, okay? Blaming alone is not going to solve the problem. the government is trying to do their part, but the public also needs to do their part, and they need to do a lot more in the sacrifice realm. I could go on with that topic for 30 minutes, but due to time, I'll just move on here. The UK is doing a lot in the air pollution realm, and this is a sidebar story, but they actually elected a mayor who ran on a platform against air pollution, trying to prevent air pollution. To run on something like that and be successful in your mayoral campaign or your presidential campaign is pretty interesting. But again, they did that. You can't read it that well, but on the third paragraph, the second paragraph, the big paragraph on the second line, you have what they say is requires a lot of behavioral changes in the public. Okay, so like I said, sacrifice. We need to have sacrifice. A lot of it involves behavioral change from the public. Okay, and some countries are doing better than others, so we can learn a lot from the international cooperation here. Okay, so actual organizations who are succeeding in international cooperation. You know a lot about CLARTAP, or the Convention on Long-Range Transport of Air Pollutants. This is a European organization. Look at the bottom line there. It was formed in 1979. Okay, that's 40-some years ago. I was at their 40th anniversary in Geneva in 2018, and I was so envious because of the fact that they could do this 47 years ago, and we're, improving in our discussions and communication, but we still are working at it. And they've done this for 40-some years. Okay, and now they have a forum, which on the upper right you call FICAP, the Forum on International Cooperation of Air Pollution. Okay, the FICAP is an organization that it was made in the organizations of CLARTAP. It's basically wanting to transfer their knowledge and know-how of reducing air pollution and reducing long-range transport to other regions, to Asia, to South America, for example. Asia and South America are very key targets because we are more ready to accept and ready to actually apply these themes. I was just talking to one person about Africa, probably where they need it most, is not really ready to accept this kind of help because of the infrastructure problems that they have. But again, FICAP is a very significant part. They're having some leadership changes, so it's kind of stagnant right now, but I'm really looking forward to what they'll be able to do to pass on their knowledge to other nations. And this was their, if you look here, excuse me, the first FICAP was held in 2023, and I was at that conference. It was in the South Ströbaden workshop in Sweden, and this group, it was an international session, and we're trying to get together the initial work done that FICAP could be active in. The United States, Europe, and Mexico and other countries are all being involved here. And then we come to the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. Obviously, this is why we are here. Communication of what we know, what Europe and CLARTAP has taught us and what we teach ourselves, how they can be transmitted to the public. Okay, I think we need to use this forum more actively in the coming years. I was asking one person from Mongolia if that's something that is being recognized in Mongolia, where it's actually needed more, and she was saying that it was probably not that big. Maybe Korea, as the initiator of this day, should travel more abroad. So next time the Minister of Foreign Affairs can hold this event in Mongolia or someplace else. Okay. Okay, and many people talked about NIACAP, so I'll pass it, but we have representatives from UNSCAP, and they're doing an awful lot to try to associate this international cooperation in the Far Eastern Asia region, East Asia region, and Southeast Asia region also, and we really appreciate it, so I'll skip that, but it was really well done. Final slide. The World Economic Forum, you're probably wondering why a slide on the World Economic Forum. I wondered the same thing. But the World Economic Forum, which is the parent of the Davos Forum, many of you have heard of the Davos Forum, where world leaders get together every January at Davos to discuss leading issues globally. the World Economic Forum is the mother organization for that. They have what they call about 40-some GFCs, Global Future Councils. Okay, it does almost covers everything from poverty to women's rights to clean air and climate, of course, and 40-some councils. I'm on the Council for Clean Air, and I just got my second term, and it's held every year in Dubai. All 40-some councils get together, and also we have a separate meeting in Geneva in between, but it discusses and wants to discuss how they can make an effort to try to clean up the air globally, and how to get an agenda item for the country heads when they meet at the Davos Forum. So we can actually suggest an agenda for the country leaders at the Davos Forum. Hey, please take care of this. Please put this on the upper part of your issue, okay, on the agenda. So that's another important topic. I want to end with I know I'm taking probably a little too much time, but just 4 concluding comments. Okay, so why do we need international cooperation? I want to summarize it with 4 things here. First of all, like I said, and I don't have a slide, so I wrote it down on my thing here. But like I said, sometimes we need a third party, sometimes we need bigger groups, okay? International cooperation is needed because you can't have just the person who is emitting and the person who's receiving talk amongst themselves. It's usually not enough. So international cooperation is key for inter-country communication. The second thing is that, like I said, long-range transport and air pollution itself is a very complex problem. We need international academic cooperation. And there's a lot of forums that we can do this, and there are a lot of forums that is actually happening. And we need to continually attend these and keep a good eye on this. And then third, communication with the public, okay? International cooperation is important because in some cases we have case studies where it's been a success, some case where it's been a failure, communicating it to the international, to the public. When the PM crisis was going in the late 2010s, I was part of the Seoul City Committee on trying to prevent PM pollution. The first thing I asked, the first meeting we had, I asked them to invite experts on communication to the meeting, the committee, because it's very difficult for us scientists and engineers to try to convey what we know to the public. I hope I'm doing a little better job today amongst some of you here, but it's very important. So communication, we need international cooperation because we have successful case studies. And finally, there are many existing organizations who do the international collaboration. Sometimes I wish for a little more coordination between these kind of groups, the UN, UNESCAP, LERTAP, even the WMO, the WHO, and then even the Economic Forum also. So international cooperation, very important, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you for listening to my talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sonu. Actually, he already kind of summarized his presentation. Let me kind of briefly kind of summarize again. Okay, according to his kind of presentation, air pollution can be described as a complex challenge because it's when it kind of explain the air pollution, it is kind of long. We need to consider long-range transport first, and then meteorology, such as stagnant conditions and then migratory high-pressure systems, chemistry, emissions, and there are lots of the air pollutants, such as NOx, VOC, SOx, and primary and secondaries. And then also we need to link air pollutants and air pollution to the climate change. And I have one short question here. Kind of when you show the newspaper blame and you mentioned the communication with the public, can you translate that communication into the public education?
Education is obviously a part of it, a big part of it, because when we talk to amongst ourselves, like so-called experts, and talking to me being a professor, talking to students is completely different. But talking to the public is even more different. I have a favorite saying that I say when I talk to the real mothers and fathers, the public, is that, and if you're in Korea, I saw the audience and they're mostly young people, but when there's mothers here, when there's mothers in the audience, I like to say that if the Korean mothers spent about 1/10 of their time, effort, money into not the children's education, but the world that the child will actually live in the future, our country would probably be the cleanest in the world. Okay, it's something along their thinking level. So I try to speak on their level, try to understand, use simpler words. But yeah, I think education is a big part of it. Sometimes education sounds too dry, but I still think it's a big part of it because not many people are really interested yet. So we need to raise the awareness, and I think the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies can be a big part of that.
Thank you again. Let's give him big hands. Okay, let's move on to the next speaker. The next speaker is Professor Ki-young Lee from Seoul National University. He is currently the principal investigator of CASA, the Clean Air for Sustainable ASEAN. He will introduce the project efforts to provide the science-based policy recommendation for ASEAN member states. Thank you. Let's welcome Professor Ki-young Lee.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, today we have a forum for transboundary air pollution and also celebrating Blue Sky Day. I think, as you know, Korean government proposed to have this day, and now it's recognized by UN and many other countries. So when we talk about this kind of activity, I think Korea has been contributing this field for a significant part in the world. And considering like 20, 30 years ago, we had a very serious problem. And as Professor Sono mentioned, PM 2.5 is going down. However, we have another problem is coming. So we have to work really hard in this field. So the topic I'm going to talk about is actually a little bit different. As a scientist, as an expert in this field, most of people in Korea complain that we are not doing enough. But when we go to another country, we are doing a lot. So just change the view a little bit, and then let me explain about this CASA project. The CASA project stands for Clean Air for Sustainable ASEAN. And ASEAN is, as you know, 10 Southeast Asian countries that get together and they make a group. And this region is also one of the highest air pollution area in the world. And this project is funded by ASEAN Korea Cooperation Fund. Actually, it's coming from Ministry of Foreign Affairs and going to the ASEAN. And ASEAN is also working with ASEAN Korea Cooperation Fund and developing new ideas. And one of these ideas is about clean air in this field. So I became a principal investigator of this project. And it starts from 2023 and until end of next year. So as you know, 10 ASEAN member states include some of these very famous in terms of air pollution. Probably you heard many countries experiencing high concentration episode in their own country. When we talk about their episode, the concentration is 2 to 5 times higher than Korea, worst case of Korea. Okay, so sometimes we invite people coming to Korea, and we have a workshop, and this delegate always said, "Oh, you have a very clean air," even though we know that they has a little bit high concentration of PM 2.5. Okay, so. We are working with the 10 ASEAN member states through ASEAN Korea Cooperation Fund, and the main idea is we are trying to provide comprehensive support for these 10 ASEAN member states to mitigate air pollution through various measures, especially we focus on scientific measures. So most of this kind of activity can be policy-oriented. But in that case, they may not have a sufficient scientific background to understand what's the problem and how to solve this problem. Okay, so we developed this project in order to provide sufficient scientific background and then develop this policy recommendation for each ASEAN member state. I don't know how many of you can speak Spanish. I can't. Yeah, I saw one right. So CASA stands for home in Spanish. So when we make this project name, we thought about various things, but one of the idea is, of course, this air pollution has no national boundary. They can move all the place. But if each country doesn't solve the problem, they cannot solve this problem together. So international cooperation is good, but they have to do their own clean air activities. So we make this project name in CASA, so it's focusing on each home country. So we have many topics incorporated in this project. I will explain one by one activities. So first topic is source analysis, or scientists call source apportionment. So idea is what is the source of air pollution in this region? Okay? And of course, in Korea, we have a lot of activities, a lot of science research projects in order to understand what is the source apportionment in this country. So that's why we sometimes say 50%, 80% of this air pollution, especially PM2.5, is coming from other country. But in this region, they rarely have this kind of information. That means, let's say if we find out some problem or high concentration of PM or other air pollution, and we cannot understand which is the source, and that means what is the appropriate activity in order to mitigate air pollution. So fortunately, we have 10 locations in this region, and we just complete, I think, 2 locations in Thailand, and very soon we will complete 2 locations in Indonesia. So we will know what is the source of air pollution in this region, and that will be incorporated into a policy recommendation. Okay, sorry. There's one slide is missing. Is we also trying to do a health impact assessment. So we know air pollution is causing health impact, but if we talk about general issues, then it's really difficult to convince each ASEAN member state. So we are collecting this data from each ASEAN member state in order to study this relationship between air pollution and health effect in each ASEAN member state. Okay, so that component is also included here. That kind of health impact assessment is very important to convince each ASEAN member state to mitigate this air pollution. Output 2.1 is we call situation analysis. I'm sure some of you actually working on using satellite data, and Korea has stationary satellite in this region, so we are using those information to understand the air pollution in this region. Of course, best way is to measure air quality in ground level. However, I just mentioned at the beginning, when we talk about situation in Korea, we know a lot For example, how many air quality monitoring stations in Korea? I don't know exact number, but I know it's like 200, 300, several hundred. Okay, so but if you go to some country in ASEAN member state, and I ask question, how many monitoring stations do you have? And sometimes the answer is none. Very proud. Okay, so very limited information in terms of air quality on ground level in some ASEAN member states. So we have a component to install and operate air quality monitoring station, but that is going to be limited. So we are using this satellite data provided by Korean government to understand situation in this region. Okay? And you can see there's 10 ASEAN member states. We have a map, and using this existing data, we try to understand where is a high concentration and when they have a high concentration using this satellite data. Okay. And especially for Thailand, they have a sufficient data, so we actually have a calibration for this satellite data, and then we are actually going into a little bit more detailed analysis. I mentioned Thailand, and they're willing to share, and just recently Malaysia also provide data to us, and actually they resist to release this data to us, but we work really hard to convince this government, and they provide this data to us in condition of just for the situation analysis. We are not allowed to release this data. But still, getting existing data from their government is not really easy to get to conduct this kind of study. And we have a component to install air quality monitoring station, and we have a budget for 20 in 10 ASEAN member states. So when we going back to Korea, we have several hundred air quality monitoring stations in Korea. And we have a huge area covering this Southeast Asia, and some country actually officially they have it. And then I went to their monitoring station, and the machine is broken for 2 or 3 years. But still they said they have it, okay, officially. So it's not enough, but fortunately we were able to install this 20 air quality monitoring station and provide this data to each ASEAN member state. And when they know what's the problem, they may mitigate the problem. The previous condition is they think they have a problem, but they don't know they have a problem. Okay, so it's very important to have a scientific information to support any kind of mitigation activity. This is a sort of update, and when I start this project, I thought it was going to be easy to install and operate this air quality monitoring station, because basically CASA project is providing significant resource to this ASEAN member state. However, I find out it's very, very difficult. So I still working with a couple of countries, but we have more than 10 stations installed operating right now, and very soon, in fact, 2 weeks from now, I will go to Manila to install 2 stations. And then I just got an email from Myanmar that they are ready to accept. And so we have a very good progress, and this kind of data will be very critical for each ASEAN member state to understand what's the problem, how serious it is. This is also this is a picture of a ceremony, and we had a ceremony in Laos, PDR, Brunei, Darussalam, Thailand, and Cambodia, and 2 weeks from now we're going to go to Philippines to have this kind of ceremony. It's very important because Korean government is spending significant amount of funding to this ASEAN member state, and it has to be recognized by this country. And also, whenever we have this kind of ceremony, we talk about public communication, public education. The newspaper and TV has very strong interest. So whenever we have this kind of ceremony, I had an interview with the TV station, and I'm pretty sure my face is on TV in each ASEAN member state. Also, a newspaper is very critical. So we are working really hard to make sure the public know this kind of activity is going on, and also how serious, how important air pollution is. Okay. And right now also we're trying to develop this platform, incorporate this monitoring station data, but also there are many information available from each ASEAN member state, and it's not easy to find. So I'm working with each ASEAN member state government, and if they have any kind of data document related to air pollution, they can provide us either a real document or a link. Nowadays, AI can translate all this language. So as long as we can link, we can provide this link or PDF file, and now people in each ASEAN member state can get access to this kind of information. And also we are providing this air quality data to each ASEAN member state. One thing we are really working hard to is release this data to public, but except to one, which is Lao PDR, all ASEAN member states refuse to release this data. They are using this data for their own government official, but they're not agreed to release this data. As we know, in Korean experience, when I was a student, air pollution data was a second-level national secret. Yeah, it was. But now, you can go to internet and you can get access, real-time data. So when people understand or know what is the situation in terms of air pollution, they may change their behavior. They may participate in some kind of activity. Okay? So I'm trying to convince this government to release this data, at least this CASA project data, but they said no. And in order to install, I had to agree, but still, whenever we have a meeting, I try to convince that this is a better way to dealing with air pollution issues. And eventually, we try to provide a policy recommendation about air pollution, and we're still working and utilizing these kinds of questions, and also especially trying to work with the scientists or government officers in each ASEAN member state. So it's very important to have a local understanding on these issues. I know scientific principles, but in order to provide the recommendation which can be suitable for each ASEAN member state, it's very critical to working with the scientists or experts in their own country. So I'm working with more than 10 experts in each ASEAN member state to develop this policy recommendation. So it's going to be the most ideal recommendation, but also limited problem in each as a member state, and also we're trying to provide a priority recommendation based on their own country. That's about it. I think that's the last slide. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Lee. He kind of introduced us the CASA projects. He mentioned the social analysis, situation analysis, and NQM installation. However, we will discuss more in details later. I have short questions here. While I think it's in the middle of the project, I guess. while you are conducting this CASA project, what is kind of most kind of challenging aspects?
Yeah, there are. If you ask most, it's going to be most difficult question to answer because there are many problems. First of all, is I have to dealing with the government officers, and there are many levels and many ministry. So finding working with the right person is very difficult. And well, since you mentioned, most difficult part is like I cannot say the name of a member state, but we are working with the government officers in order to get agreement on this activity, and we were very successful. And we were told that minister will sign this in few days, and then there's a government change, and then they said I have to start from the bottom. So that kind of working with the government in 10 as a member state is very difficult, but at the same time, developing friendship is very important. And when we have a sincere approach to working with the government officers, they are also really serious on thinking of this air pollution mitigation, and it takes a little bit of time. So that is also another part to incorporate this kind of project.
Thank you, Professor Lee. Let's begin again. Our final speaker in this session is Dr. Samia Akbar, a senior environmental specialist at the World Bank. Today, he will provide insights on the health and economic impacts of air pollution and the need for stronger regional cooperation in the EAP region. Please welcome Dr. Samia Akbar.
Thank you. Thank you very much. To be honest, I'm quite intimidated because I am the only non-professorial person in the two sessions, I suppose. So I have a very hard act to follow. So excuse me if I don't live up to the professor standards. But this also tells me something, that this field, at least maybe in Korea, has a lot of great academics working on it. But maybe we need some more policy people to be on the panels. Perhaps something for the next year to consider, so that we can have a good sort of intermix of the science policy interface. I'll try and be very quick because a lot of what I wanted to say has already been said. So that's the beauty of being last. And of course, I don't want to keep you all for too long. I'm sure you're all wanting to get out of here. So let me try and go through my presentation quite quickly. So you all have seen these kind of slides, this data, but suffice it to say that East Asia and the Pacific, and that's East Asia and Pacific for the World Bank is a very large agglomeration of countries, all the way from the Pacific Islands to China down to Indonesia. So you can say it's a mix of what's ASEAN and what's in the northeast of Asia. A very large burden of deaths from air pollution, from PM 2.5. Economic consequences are very high. We at the World Bank have done lots of analytical work on this. As a financing institution, this matters a lot for us. Converting the health costs, the lost productivity, the loss in work days, all of that to economic numbers and to GDP equivalents is useful to make the case to ministries of finance, ministries of economy and others, because they are the ones who finally hold the purse strings, and they are the ones who finally decide whether this policy recommendations from great academic research might translate into action. Since this is about transboundary air pollution, I just wanted to highlight a couple of points, and you've heard this already by now, but the magnitude of air pollution in different countries is different, and the sources vary quite significantly. You saw some numbers in the first presentation as well. Air pollution levels vary a lot. You have, as we just heard, fairly clean air in South Korea, perhaps for large parts of the year. But in the winter in Mongolia, you saw and you know how bad it is, perhaps the worst in the world. So the levels vary a lot, but the sources vary a lot as well. I mean, again, taking the example of Mongolia, since we heard about it, the use of coal for residential heating for a good, 8, 9 months, the long winter season, is a big source of the pollution, whereas perhaps here, as you saw ozone going up so dramatically, may be driven a lot by other sources, transport or industrial, that are driving it, and may not be the biggest thing in Mongolia. So 2 things to keep in mind, that the countries are very different, other than their socioeconomic context, just the part about air pollution, where it's coming from, and how it varies. And secondly, which you already heard also, is that it shows seasonality, and B, it doesn't respect jurisdictional boundaries. Again, since Mongolia has been mentioned, the long winter, the seasonality is very evident, right? Here in Korea, the dust that you get when is it, in early spring, or is it in the red dust, is a seasonal thing. So you have to remember that seasonality, because of weather conditions and meteorological conditions, affects air pollution hugely. And then jurisdictional boundaries. I deliberately use the word jurisdictional and not national, because it's a question of how to control. Jurisdictions are generally under mayors, under decision makers, and they think of it as, or politicians, they think of it as their jurisdiction, the area over which they have control. But air pollution doesn't have a respect for that. And that's really important in communicating to policymakers and to politicians, that your province, your district, your city is being impacted by others or is impacting others. And it's not a question, it's what you can do, and you have to necessarily cooperate. And the one word I want to introduce here, which I didn't hear so far, but has been referred to, is airshed. The impact of air pollution spans entire airsheds. Most of you who are technical would have heard of watershed being used a lot. For water, we use that term a lot. And watershed is the catchment area for rivers, streams, and others which are geographically and topographically similar and unaffect each other. It's the same concept. We at the World Bank are using it increasingly because we find that it resonates quite well with decision makers, and the same concept applies. An airshed is a geographical area where local topography and meteorology limit the dispersion of pollutants away from the area. This is a simple definition from Wikipedia. You can look at other definitions as well. But the professors here will tell you that when you start doing dispersion modeling and things like that, define boundary conditions, airshed is a real thing. And perhaps it may be easier to get cooperation around airsheds once people start accepting that, okay, it doesn't mean that everybody is equally responsible or affected geographically or jurisdictionally, but if you take an airshed approach, and I'll show you that in an example just now, how we are using that to bring a few countries together. But it's worth thinking about, airshed as the construct to get countries together to collaborate and cooperate. So clearly, on the global side, again, you've heard about this. You heard about LRTAP, the global convention on long-range transboundary air pollution, been there for many, many, many years. And it's a global, the experience shows that, it's possible. It's possible to, cooperate, and it's largely been successful. There are a number of successful, outcomes that have been achieved. It's and particularly, of course, largely in Europe and North America. But there have been a lot of improvements in air quality, and LRTAP has been the bedrock. So there is examples. There's positive, momentum around some of that if you want to take it. Similarly, in this region, in East Asia and the Pacific, there are a number of ongoing initiatives. You heard a lot of them already. I'm sure I have missed some here. I learned about some today. So we have a problem of plenty. I think really, if you look around other regions, perhaps we have the most going on in terms of different project-driven initiatives in this region. The question that obviously it raises is that, is the sum of all of them really adding up to bigger than the whole as such, right? And that's something to think about as to how can we make them more impactful, additive, cumulatively, maybe multiplicatively more impactful, given that there's so much going on. And I think that ties in really to this discussion we are having today. And I feel that perhaps we have a need for greater regional collaboration and cooperation and one of those approaches we would advocate for, perhaps to think about, so far we have done this country by country, maybe is to also start thinking about airsheds. And whether that may make a more compelling argument and be able to show results, show impacts more forcefully. Of course, to facilitate more collaboration, to support countries to develop and implement policies, and of course, to provide funding. But there is not a need for more initiatives. There is a need for more sort of collaboration and cooperation amongst existing initiatives. And we can talk about in the end as to how that could possibly be done. Just a few examples from the World Bank's experience. The World Bank has over the past 20 years invested more than $16 billion. It's close to 20 now, actually, in tackling air pollution across the world. A lot of successes, some not so much successful. A lot of money has gone in from Mexico City to Ulaanbaatar to Lima to Hanoi to Delhi. And it's a business, it's an area for us which is on the rise, actually. More and more countries are seeking support, either as part of transport projects or urban development projects or on their own, standalone projects and climate initiatives. Doesn't have to be a standalone, only air quality related project, because at the end of the day, you want to tackle sources of air pollution, and they are in transport or in energy or in other sectors. A good example of success that we've had is not too far from here in China, where the greater Jing-Jin-Ji region in Hebei province was basically took an airshed approach to address air pollution from transport, from households, from agriculture, and from industrial sectors. And they managed to reduce quite significantly. They took a loan of about $500 million as part of a whole government program of $617 million. And they showed impressive results of reducing PM 2.5 concentration reduction and others. So that's one good example, successful example that we can show. The other one that is developing now, currently as we speak, is the airshed in the Indo-Gangetic Plain, which is in South Asia. This airshed, as defined by the scientists, and including IASA, who were mentioned earlier, includes this whole area from Pakistan to Bangladesh. It's one airshed. And a lot of modeling and analytics help define this. But this means that all these countries from Pakistan to India to Nepal to Bangladesh all have to work together. And they are working together. I'm glad to say that we have a very robust engagement and a multi-country program, more than $1 billion in the pipeline for countries. Pakistan has already started their project. Bangladesh already started their project. In India, there are 3 projects in the pipeline in different states. And they meet twice a year. High-level policymakers get together. We facilitate those meetings because that's important that the policymakers get together and keep the momentum alive. Just another example of regional level engagement, which is in this part of the world. And this is where I'm really, I'll probably follow up with Professor Lee here about the ASEAN work, because we've just started at the request of the ASEAN Secretariat to start helping them on air quality management. But it's just the start, so I hope I can follow up with you and see how we can collaborate and not duplicate what you've already done and are doing. But clearly, organizations with a regional remit like ASEAN Secretariat can potentially have a role. But again, there are 2 parts to what we are doing with them, and one of them is really to enable regional, cooperation. And this project actually runs through June 2026, which is perhaps similar to your timeline. So it's good that I heard about this today, and I'll follow up. And at the national level, let me mention 2 country engagements that we are having. One is with Indonesia, and this is through the Ministry of Environment here, who have contracted through KT, which is the Korean Environment Industry Technology Institute, a study in Indonesia, which we are facilitating and collaborating on air quality diagnostics, pre-feasibility study of priority actions. These are linked to World Bank potential projects so that what is studied and developed as plans and priorities can be implemented. A second one is Mongolia, and I'm glad that we have a few people from Mongolia here, I suppose. Again, worth following up on this together. We know that currently the Korean government, through MOTI, is helping Mongolia prepare a master plan for air quality and GHG mitigation in the GAIR areas. This work has just started in July and will go through the end of this year. The Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, as well as Economic Development have also asked the World Bank to help. And we are in discussion with them on identifying areas that we can help potentially around carbon markets and providing technical assistance support. So again, I think one of the good things about these kind of meetings like today is that you come to know who's doing what, and hopefully we can coordinate, collaborate, and make sure at least we don't overlap or duplicate so that we don't throw good money after bad. Thank you very much, and I'm very happy that we got a chance to talk about this, and I'm happy to follow up if you have any questions, or would you like to cooperate with the World Bank. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Akbar. I have short questions. Actually, Dr. Akbar kind of presented his experience at the World Bank, and he mentioned the importance of how defining the airshed. And during the first session, you have the questions to Dr. Wu, to the so-called the social apportionment or the social receptor relationship in the Northeast Asia. As Professor Sonu mentioned, the air pollution is a complex kind of phenomenon, and then as kind of Dr. Professor Lee mentioned, sometimes certain government level doesn't want kind of kind of exhibited there kind of some relationship. So sometimes it becomes tough task, right? So what is your experience on the part?
I think if we can join forces, if different initiatives come together, it becomes much easier to convince the government. One of the problems we find and happens is that if many government officials, if they are working with one program, with one government or one bilateral support, they're very happy doing that and not necessarily wanting to work with somebody else, or they don't have the time for it. And as I'm a great proponent of sort of donor coordination or bilateral support coordination. That's why the two examples I mentioned, I actually found out about the Moti support to Mongolia, and I reached out to Moti and I said, let's talk. It's still not easy. I'm the one who's pushing it. Moti is still, well, there are changes undergoing, as you know, so hopefully we will collaborate with them. But I feel that, and nowadays it's very easy to find out who's doing what. And that's usually the first activity any study does, is to do a quick landscape analysis. And the second thing you need to do is to sort of at least try and see if you can present a common face to the counterpart. That doesn't mean that you hold hands and sing the same song. It does mean that you are seen as coordinated. And it makes a big difference on the other side, I feel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we spent too much time, so I think we have only 5 or 10 minutes left, right? Correct? How many minutes we have? 5 minutes? Okay, so I think we'd better have some questions from the floor. So 한국말로 질문을 하셔도 되고요. 혹시 질문이 하고 싶으시면 한국말로 질문하셔도 되고 영어로 질문하셔도 될 것 같습니다. If you have any questions, please go ahead.
Thank you for an insightful lecture on strengthening cooperation for joint responses to transboundary air pollution. Especially Professor Young's emphasis on the critical role of public response truly resonated with me. I confess, my initial thoughts often gravitated towards assigning blame to big corporations, car manufacturers, or even other countries, rather than considering the proactive engagement of the public. This lecture has certainly prompted me to reflect on that perspective. It's clear that a comprehensive approach to transboundary air pollution demands more than just intergovernmental or industrial solutions. It necessitates a robust and well-informed public response. Engaging the public effectively can foster a sense of shared responsibility and drive collective action, which is essential for sustainable change. I am particularly interested in exploring how to best cultivate these kind of public involvement. Therefore, I would like to ask, what are effective strategies for incorporating public response and engagement to cooperative frameworks for addressing transboundary air pollution, drawing insights from relevant case studies? So this would greatly help in understanding how to move beyond mere blame and towards collaborative public action. Thank you very much.
Should I respond? Okay, well, thank you for your very insightful question. The list of things that we can do from the public standpoint is just too long. It's for a short discussion period, but I want to stress what Dr. Basanjov, is that? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. What he stressed about the fact that when we have panels like this, I think it's a big forum to try to get the public involved, the public more educated, like Professor Kim mentioned. Not only panels from policymakers, but panels from, for example, NGOs, or even just youth representatives, for example. And I know a lot of the meetings like this are doing that. This one term that I frequently come across is what he also mentioned, but the science policy interface. Okay, so me as a scientist and engineer, we look at all the data and try to do analysis. But what I have to try to do better, and most of us have to do better, is to try to transfer our knowledge to the policymakers. And sometimes we don't do that effectively. I mentioned in my talk about communication, communicating to the public on their level so they can understand. So, you know, we can talk about the list of things that the public can do, and you can go to the internet and find those things. But trying to explain to the public how important it is, how, you know, health-wise that you have to do it, trying to convey the urgency of the situation is, I think, more important. So this kind of forum, and the forum for this International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies, I think it has to be expanded to include not only the policymakers, but the public. So when we have discussions like this, not just presentations, but a discussion where even our layout, the format of the way we sit, should be like more circular, to talk back and forth amongst each other. So to have a true discussion of what you need and what we need to deliver to you. So again, for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the next year we had some suggestions about including policymakers, including experts for communication, NGOs, and the public themselves. I think would be a big beneficial occasion. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs for organizing this important conference. I have no question, I have just a comment. Mongolia attaches high importance to fighting air pollution, especially given Ulaanbaatar's severe winter. So in today's conference, the Mongolian experience is also highlighted. In that case, Mongolia was co-sponsoring the resolution on the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies, adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in December 2021, I think. Also, Mongolia has cooperated with the development partners for joint responses to air pollution, and while balancing our national interests and development priorities. The last thing, and taking this opportunity, I would like to thank our development partners, including World Bank, COICA, and also UNESCO for close cooperation in this field. Thank you very much.
Thank you for comments and sharing the experiences.
But I didn't attend the first session, but since 2014, 13 or 14, I went to Mongolia, Ulaanbaatar every year, and actually in January. So the reason is, the first time I visited Ulaanbaatar was in summertime. There's a conference talking about air pollution. And they asked me, oh, what do you think of this air pollution in Ulaanbaatar? I said, oh, you have a blue sky. And then they said, the Mongolian scientists, oh, you have to come to Ulaanbaatar in January. And so I asked question, what is the temperature like here, January? Oh, minus 40 degrees Celsius. But I don't come. I don't want to come. But I went there and realized it was very serious. Every year was serious until I think it's about 2019, when the Mongolian government, Ulaanbaatar city government, trying to change the fuel from raw coal to briquette. Okay, so, and then I was in Ulaanbaatar 10 days before COVID-19. Okay, so we measure pollution there. So I think Mongolia case is very important case study in terms of solving these issues. And my understanding is Mongolian government actually didn't do anything until 2019. And then from that point, they trying to incorporate many change. And actually last year, I also went there in January, and then find out air quality was much better than 10 years ago. Okay, so I think still you have a lot of way to go, but I think going back to historical data, whatever you can get, and trying to make a case that if you do something in your government, you can improve. And that will be very important to other countries as well. Because in many cases, when we talk about air pollution case, we learn from US or Europe after it already clean. But if we develop some case study which is incorporated in this region, that some kind of activity and policy can improve air pollution from really serious condition to less serious condition, I think that will be very important to other country, which is still suffering from many serious air pollution issues. Because if we talk about case in US or Europe to Southeast Asian country, it's different situation. They don't understand WHO guideline of 15, 20 when they have a 200, 300. Okay, so I think I'm glad I met someone from Mongolia that you are working on air pollution. I think you have a very good case to convince not only your government but also some other countries in this region.
혹시 또 추가적인 질문 있으실까요? 뒤에. Okay, Dr. Kim.
Thanks for nice presentations in this session. I learned a lot, and I've been impressed by all the efforts to deploy ground-based instruments within the Asian region. From the satellite perspective that we've been operating GEMS, we can readily detect particulate matter and gas components in column amounts that's available without any assistance from ground-based. However, for the machine learning part, to get the surface of PM 2.5 and NO2, we are providing the data through the website of NIER, only in limited region. That's due to the lack of surface concentration data. We like to expand to the south and western part of the domain. So your effort is being appreciated. Okay. So do you have other plan to expand these ground-based network to the region, countries other than you listed up? Or?
Yeah, so far we convinced the Thailand government to provide this data. And then we actually analyzed this data to sort of calibrate the satellite data to ground level, PM 2.5 level. And just a couple of weeks ago, we got a data from Malaysian government, so we can actually do it. And then this Wednesday, I'm going to go to Singapore and try to convince Singapore government to provide this data. So these three ASEAN member states probably has a substantial database in terms of ground level air quality data. Other countries, they say they have it, but when I visit their monitoring station, either it's broken or not, sometimes disappeared. So I don't think the other ASEAN members can provide sufficient database to us that we can utilize those data for satellite information.
With those data sets, our satellite retrieval will get smarter and smarter by learning curves. And we can do a better job with the PM than gas species in particular. Thank you.
Back to
Thank you. One question to Samir. You mentioned that the collaboration among countries in the airshed. So airshed is the definition of a shed we can share together. But in our case, it's more like a westerly region, which is one way of atmospheric transport. So in that case, how it may affect the collaboration within a region? And another question is, in that case, how can we tie the countries in the upwind region versus downwind region?
So I saw some research that for East Asia, which defines a few airsheds actually, and there are some micro airsheds. You guys probably know better than me how many airsheds exist in this part of the world. And if you want, I can dig out the work that I have seen. So I think there needs to be perhaps more work done to figure out what are the airsheds. For example, the Sumatra, Java, Bali, that area around Indonesia, there is quite a distinct airshed, and some work has been done. Similarly, in the Thailand, Singapore, Thailand, there is a longitudinal piece of, demarcation of an airshed. So again, I don't know how much of that exists for, maybe South Korea is an outlier because it's just getting affected from the West. And that's probably, it's hard to define. Maybe the airshed extends into China and Mongolia, and that, but you are right, seasonally you are downwind, right? I mean, I think, and especially when the red dust comes in. I don't know, I mean, amongst these various, the NESCAP or is it NESCAP? NESPAC, okay. I mean, there are these platforms, right, which provide the opportunity to have, I don't know whether this discussion is elevated to the level of decision makers or it's largely at the level of academics and technical people. I know that this is a long-running issue between what comes to South Korea and what comes, what is generated in China. But going back to the example of South Asia that I talked about, for example, there is the same issue. I mean, India and Pakistan don't have great relationship politically, but on this issue, because the effect is so severe in the two countries, that they are actually willing to sit down and discuss. You need a third-party independent mediator, so to say, and I think you alluded to that, a party that doesn't have a stake in it, but is willing to be the one who takes them to a third place. So we've had, in the same way as air, India and Pakistan already have an established water sharing agreement, because the watersheds are the same, the Indus River watershed. So we have regular meetings, and that's a long-established mechanism where they meet in Singapore or in Dubai or in some third place. The politicians and the decision makers meet, mediated by, in the water case, it's by the World Bank, and they try and resolve these issues. Even though the water issue is very much in Pakistan getting affected by India's release of the Indus water from upstream. So it's a north-south, like an east-west issue here. But I think the answer to your question really is learning from those experiences is to maybe, if they are willing to talk, having a third-party mediation to have that engagement is perhaps the best way to start the discussion.
저희가 한 5분 정도 남아있는데 혹시 추가적인 질문 있으실까요? 없으시면 선우 교수님 혹시.
Yeah, thank you. Commenting on the fact that air pollution is very difficult, the term airshed is very being used very generally, but actually it can be used very specifically depending on the material that we're talking about. The air share could be different because of their different lifetimes in the atmosphere, but that's getting too technical. I wanted to ask a question to Dr. Akbar. Sorry I messed up your name earlier, but talking about sensitive issues, whenever we talk about China, it gets to be sensitive. I noticed a lot of funding is going to China on the air pollution front. I know over 60% of air pollution funding in the ADB, Asian Development Bank, is going to China. You mentioned some funding from World Bank going to China. Now, from my standpoint as a person who just thinks about the world in the general sense, China is a developing country, but they're a very powerful and rich country. And it seems to me that the money from ADB or World Bank could be much better spent in much of the poorer countries. Now, I know there are political issues and other sensitive issues, but when you decide these kind of funding avenues, how does all this money go to China? Sorry to put you in a spot here.
How much time do you have to sit here? Maybe we can talk about it bilaterally outside, but that's changing rapidly. It's not going to be the case for the reasons that you mentioned. And I mean, the good thing though is that China has done things and demonstrated it can be done. So a lot of, at least from the World Bank side, I can tell you, the shift is a lot towards seeing China being seen as a source of knowledge and experience and expertise than pouring money there. So you'll see a lot more of efforts to learn from China, which is, I think, is perfectly fine, but not pouring in the money that it has had the benefit of in the past. You can also, of course, there is always politics around some of these issues, but that's suffice to say it's rapidly changing, and you won't see that happen.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I think we kind of time's up. I think we spent 100 minutes already. So, yeah, during this kind of second session, we had 3 distinguished speakers, and after their presentations, we had lots of kind of discussions, and through the discussions, I think we can make a kind of forward kind of movement toward kind of more kind of tightened kind of collaborations. I think that could be kind of solid kind of step for our kind of future collaboration. Thank you for all of your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim, and our esteemed presenters for your valuable insights and for sharing your opinions. So this brings an end of our session, and today's forum has been convened to address the urgent need for international cooperation to reduce transboundary air pollution, such as FINDUS, which directly affects the quality of life for all people. Through today's forum, we aim to enhance global awareness of the necessity for collective action on air pollution and expand the foundation for policy and technological cooperation as well. So we sincerely hope today's forum has been meaningful and beneficial for everyone. And on behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we extend our sincere gratitude, and we look forward to welcoming you again next year. Thank you very much.